Shabbat Shalom. Friends, it seems like every day words spoken and actions taken by those in leadership of our country seem to land like tiny bombs exploding all around us. It's hard to know where to look and what to do. Sometimes we can barely manage to run for cover before something else lands with a crash. In these polarizing times, we lean on our core Jewish values. For each of us, the way that we express and live out these values differs. Bethel, after all, is a big tent. Nevertheless, we hope and expect that each of us sees ourselves reflected in the mirror of our community. If you don't hear me condemn every action taken against Jewish values, it is because it is my job to use this pulpit not to react to current events or to analyze the news or to tell you when people in power are behaving badly. Rather, it is my job to help us mine our ancient texts for answers on how we should live and to nudge us forward on a path of dignity, curiosity, and courage. I want to challenge us to read Torah in order to expand ourselves, to expand what we believe is possible, and to do our parts to bring healing that is so badly needed to our world. I want to strive as much as possible not to be reactive, but to be proactive. And with that in mind, I want to say out loud that Judaism is about love, not domination. Judaism is about protecting the vulnerable people among us. Judaism is about the pursuit of peace. Judaism is about truth. Judaism is about the dignity of every human being, and Judaism honors life, and our highest value is the protection of life. With that in mind, let's learn some Torah. Today, I want to focus not on the dramatic moments when our people walk between the walls of water, witness the death of the Egyptians, and are birthed into freedom. I want to talk about what happens after the miracle of the parting of the sea. The people have been freed, but Moses' work is far from done. No sooner have they left the tyranny of Egypt behind than, of course, they begin complaining, of course, yes. There is so much uncertainty. The people do not yet know that they can rely on God for their sustenance or for shielding them from harm. Understandably, the Israelites lack faith. It makes sense. They fled a life of domination and trauma, and this relationship with God is a new one in its beginning stages. They are just starting to learn about healthy dependence. They're just learning how to trust. There's a powerful image that emerges to teach us something about faith, and it occurs towards the end of our Parsha in chapter 17. Amalek begins to war with the Israelites, and Moses goes to the top of a hill accompanied by Aaron and Hur. From this vantage point, Moses can hold the rod of God aloft, and when he does so, Israel prevails in the fight. And our text reads, V'yadei Moshe kevadim, and Moses' hands grew heavy. V'yikchu even v'yasimu tachta v'yeshev alecha, v'Aharon v'Hur tamchu, v'yadav mizeh echad u'mizeh echad, v'hi yadav emunah ad bo hashemesh. So Moses' hands grew heavy, and they took a stone and they put it under him, and he sat on it. while Aaron and Hur, one on each side, supported his hands. Thus, his hands remained steady until. It's a beautiful meditation on teamwork. Moses cannot do it alone. Moses does not go up the hill alone, and when his arms grow tired, Aaron and Hur are on either side of him to make sure that he sits down and they can support his arms. It takes a team. I want to call our attention, though, to the phrasing at the end of the pasuk, Yadav emunah. Read hyper-literally, his hands were emunah. Moshe's hands were faith. It's amazing to read these words embedded in a parsha that's all about faith, or maybe sometimes the lack of faith. In explicating this verse about Moshe's hands, Kizkuni, a 13th century French commentator, says emunah describes anything that does not weaken or decrease in size while remaining in the same position for a long time. What does it mean to have faith? It means holding firm, being sturdy. Perhaps it means showing up, continuing to be reliable. David White, my favorite poet, says, I want to write about faith, about the way the moon rises over cold snow, night after night. White likens faith to the moon, which waxes and wanes but never disappears from the sky. Faith, in this understanding, is quiet yet bright. Miracles abound in this part of the Exodus narrative. The Israelites witness the greatest of all possible miracles, the parting of the Red Sea that enables our redemption. And yet, 3 days later, when they're thirsty, they can only express anxiety, anger, and a lack of trust in God. This is not a condition, I think, that's particular to the Israelites. It's a human condition. Faith is not born from miracles. Perhaps this is why the Palestinian Talmud tells us we do not rely on miracles. The Israelites just witnessed a giant miracle, yet it's still hard for them to have faith. Perhaps that's because faith is an inside job. It requires patience and determination, coming back again and again. Faith is built over time and messily. Perhaps faith can be built like a habit, yet it also requires a leap. As we say, a leap of faith. It means that there's a moment when your feet are in the air. Faith is not intellectual, but it's based in experience. And it's not just a matter of belief, for belief can be proven or disproven by facts, but faith rests on a different plane, the plane of sustained experiences. I mentioned earlier that questions of faith course through this parsha. How so? Well, slavery took away the people's ability to trust. God's gifts of manna and Shabbat are meant to cultivate a healthy sense of dependence, the ability to have faith in God. Manna comes with what Rabbi Shai held terms built-in controls, and they produce a kind of radical equality. Whether you gather a ton or a little, you end up with just what you need. God enlarges the portion of someone who took too little and shrinks the one of someone who took too much. Also, it's impossible to hoard it because it will rot. The manna is a test. Can the people obey the laws of Shabbat, suspend their anxiety about having enough? Ibn Ezra says that God is testing the Israelites' ability to tolerate needing God each and every day. In Egypt, the means of staying alive, of getting fed, involved anxiety, oppression, and hoarding. Can the Israelites find a new way forward? Faith in God is scary. It's natural to want to believe in self-sufficiency instead. Can the Israelites come to understand that dependence on God is not bondage? Can they, in Rabbi Held's words, surrender the illusion of self-sufficiency? Can we? We need God, and we need other people. Consider Hur, and Aaron holding up Moshe's arms of faith. Covenant is based on God and the people needing each other. God leads us on a circuitous route because faith is not obtained in a straight shot. This is in part because, as Alan Marinus reminds us, a fully resolved faith is a dead faith. We need our faith to be challenged in order to grow. It turns out that the need for faith is actually a human need, an essential human need. Our bodies need sleep and water and food, and our souls seem to need faith. But faith is naturally elusive. I return to David White's poem. He says, I want to write about faith, about the way the moon rises over cold snow, night after night. Faithful even as it fades from fullness, slowly becoming that last curving and impossible sliver of light before the final darkness. But I have no faith myself. I refuse it even the smallest entry. Let this then, my small poem, like a new moon slender and barely open, be the first prayer that opens me to faith. We need faith, but we find that even that which is steady and bright waxes and wanes. We need faith, but we cannot find it alone. Moses needs Aaron and Hur to support him, and we need each other. This is what Rabbi Sharon Brous calls the Amen effect. Rabbi Brous noticed that in thinking about the mourner's Kaddish, that it's not the words of the mourner's Kaddish that are meaningful in our healing when we're in mourning. Rather, it is the conversation that they elicit between the mourner and the community. A person who has been broken by grief stands with her community and reveals her brokenness. The community witnesses her and answers, Amen. Amen. From the word emunah, meaning I hear you, I see you, I am with you. Faith is not found in miracles, but comes from the everyday practice of letting go of the illusion that we can do this on our own. Shabbat Shalom.